all of them viewing in the VIP viewing area not far away. That, I believe, in the foreground now, you're just beginning to see Judy Resnick, Dr. Resnick, of course, a space veteran. Krista laughing, as they all were this morning. It seemed, even though they had a launch delay this morning, they were all in such good spirits as they got set to board the Shuttle Challenger. It seemed the launch control teams and everybody involved seems to have a feeling when the launch is going to go. Delay after delay, of course. The last flight, we had the feeling that we are, I'm told, going to the White House now, and so we will take you back to New York.
Let's go now to, there's Larry Speaks in the White House briefing room.
What he has just seen replayed on television concerning the shuttle launch. We do not have any more information than is being provided to the public at this time. The way the President found out about it is he was in the Oval Office with a group of senior staff preparing for some questions with a group of network correspondents and anchors that were having lunch in the White House today regarding the budget and the State of the Union. The Vice President and the Foreign Policy Advisor, John Poindexter, came in with others and informed the President that the news had just broken. We immediately adjourned our Oval Office meeting and went into an adjoining room, the President's study, where there's a television, and the President then began to review television reports of the explosion there shortly after the launch. So once again, the President is concerned. He is saddened. He is very anxious to have more information on it. At the moment, as I say, we're learning most of our information from what the public is getting.
What is your best information as to the condition of the crew, Larry, at this point?
We don't have any more information than what is being provided to the public on television. Hopefully later we will be able to get some, and that's the President's first priority is to find out what information that is available. We just don't have any more. No, we have not from the Oval Office.
Will this affect in any way the plans for the State of the Union tonight?
I don't believe so. I'm certain that the President will feel compelled to mention this, depending on the outcome of what we learn here in a few minutes.
Will it affect the shuttle program, Larry?
Well, that's hard to say, here in 15 or 20 minutes after an incident of this type is concerned. I'm sure it will not affect the United States' determination to consider to continue the exploration of space and all the benefits we've received from it.
Can you tell us anything else about the schedule?
While this is indeed tragic, it certainly will not deter the United States in its interest in space exploration.
All the problems that the shuttle has had, will any substantial reevaluation be done of the program itself?
Well, once again, you're very premature in asking a question concerning the future of the space program. The United States has met adversity many times before in the space program. It is one of the most effective and successful programs of that type that any country has ever undertaken.
Larry, can you tell us anything specifically that the President said, any quotations? And did he make any mention of the fact that the teacher that he suggested, that the program of a teacher in space, that teacher was on board this flight?
Well, I know that was on his mind. Quite frankly, the President stood there in almost stunned silence as he watched the television. You could certainly read the concern, the sorrow, the anxiety, on his face as he watched, and the group watched around him. As I say, he was virtually watched in silence.
Might anyone from the White House be leading some sort of investigating team, or will it just be up to NASA to investigate this?
All this is very, very early, and there's just nothing we can say. Our immediate concern is the crew, and all of these other questions will just have to be deferred.
Was anything said about the fact that the teacher was on board this flight?
Well, it was something that was on all of our minds, that we did have the first teacher in space, really the first civilian, so to speak, other than our members of Congress who have flown in space, and certainly that's on our mind.
Are there any scientific aides who have been able to say that they could survive such an explosion?
Just don't have that kind of information yet.
Larry, you said that the Vice President and Admiral Poindexter informed the President. How did the White House learn about it?
I'm certain that we probably learned it from the news media, as we do many times when incidents like this occur unexpectedly.
So Might this influence the decision about whether other civilians will be allowed on the shuttle from now on, Larry?
Once again, all of these questions, our immediate concern is for the fate of the crew, to find out exactly what has happened to those 7 people aboard. All of these other questions we'll just have to wait till later.
Can
Dave?
you tell us anything about what the president's schedule, how the president's schedule is changing now?
President's schedule has not changed. He will keep on with what he had planned today and the State of the Union tonight. And once again, I think the only change in his schedule would be to simply be updated and try to seek the facts in this.
Will the president be making any phone calls to the family, Larry?
I just don't know. It customarily does, but we're going to wait till we find out what the facts are.
Larry, he watched in silence, but were there no quotes that you could give us?
Nothing. It was virtually in silence.
Are you going to know what's being done now, Larry, in terms of searching for?
No. That all of that information we just do not have yet. Dale, you had one question and you want to go? Okay.
What are your plans? What are your plans about briefing the rest of the afternoon on this?
Well, I think once we find out what the facts are and particularly what the fate of the crew is, then we'll be prepared to say something.
Larry, did you detect any sign of emotion as the president watched? Was he shaking his head?
Concern, anxiety, silence.
And there was White House spokesman Larry Speaks saying that the president watched in stunned silence at the explosion aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger. To recap, about a minute after the launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger from Cape Canaveral this afternoon, there was a huge, bright ball of fire, an explosion in the air about 28 miles west of the Cape Canaveral launch site. It is not known at this hour the fate of the 7 crew members aboard, including Christy McAuliffe, the school teacher from Concord, New Hampshire. The explosion came without warning. All seemed to be going fine. About a minute into that flight, it was just after the NASA controllers told the crew aboard the Challenger to go to full throttle that the explosion occurred. It happened more than a minute before the usual separation that you see of the solid fuel rocket from the main part of the Challenger. Again, paramedics and ships are moving to that area. It is not known the fate of the crew, what has happened. We hope to hear from that very shortly, but obviously it does not look good. This is the first accident of this kind for quite some years. 3 astronauts, you will recall, back in 1967 were killed on the launch pad during a testing. They burned to death inside a capsule. Again, we have no word on the fate of the 7 astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger in this accident that happened a little while ago. Let's go back now to Houston and correspondent Dan Molina. Dan?
John, I must say the president said he watched in stunned silence, as did we all. We are going to look now at a recap of what happened as narrated by the NASA commentator Steve Nesbitt.
We had an apparently nominal liftoff.
It's a shot of mission control.
This morning at 11:38 Eastern Time.
A lot of muscle twitching there, as you
The
can see.
ascent phase appeared normal through approximately the completion of the roll program and throttle down and engine throttle back to 104%. At that point, we had an apparent explosion. Subsequent to that, the tracking crews reported to the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle appeared to have exploded and that we had an impact in the water downrange at a location approximately 28.64 degrees north, 80.28 degrees west. At the time the data was lost with the vehicle, according to a poll by the flight director Jay Green of the positions here in Mission Control, there were no anomalous indications, no indications of problems with the engines or with the SRBs or with any of the other systems at that moment through the point at which we lost data. Again, this is preliminary information. It's all that we have at the moment, and we will keep you advised as other information becomes available. We had there are recovery forces in the general area, others being deployed, including aircraft and ships. We saw what we believe to be paramedics parachuting into the impact area, and we have no additional word at this point.
Looking at that picture of Mission Control that you were seeing, I could notice up in the back of the room a gentleman by the name of Eugene Kranz, the Flight Operations Director. I can't help but recall when Apollo 13 had its problem. You may well recall back when Apollo 13 was in danger of not getting back from the moon. It was Eugene Kranz who sat at the flight director's desk and said, "Keep calm, we've still got the LEM, we can still make it back if we have to." There are people in that room who are used to flirting with absolute disaster, but they may have confronted one really this time. Gene Kranz is way up in the back right-hand corner of the room where it says Flight Operations Director. The crew, to recap, if you're just joining us, consists of 7 people. The mission commander is Francis Dick Scobie, a veteran of a lot of flying hours. Of course, of particular concern at this point is the fact that on that shuttle was Sharon Christa McCullough, 37 years old, the first teacher to fly in space. And we'll go back now to John Palmer, New York.
Thank you, Dan. We have just been given a new position for the crash site, now 12.5 miles offshore, off the Cape. Numerous ships and aircraft are now en route to the crash site, again about 20 kilometers or 12.5 miles off the Cape. It's interesting and somewhat distressing to note that the Challenger was not equipped with ejection seats or other ways for the crew to get out of the spacecraft. That was not the case during earlier shuttle flights. The Columbia, for instance, had those, but the Space Shuttle Challenger did not. As we've just seen a few minutes ago, White House spokesman Larry Speakes came into the briefing room there at the White House to say that the president listened with stunned silence as he saw a television replay of the explosion aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger. We want to go there again with the note that we still are awaiting word, of course, on the fate of the 7 crew persons aboard. Let's go back now to the White House, though, and check in with Chris Wallace. Chris, what can you tell us?
Well, really no information beyond what Larry Speakes told us just a little while ago, that the president, as you say, watched a television replay. He was in a White House meeting in the Oval Office when Vice President Bush and Admiral John Poindexter, his national security advisor, came into the Oval Office and told him that there had been a problem down at the Cape.